on
Hey,
Facebook and YouTube. Hey, buddy, how are you?
good, thank you. Are we going live on
Yeah,
Call-In as
let's
well
do
today?
that. Why don't
Yeah, let's
we
do that
shoot
then.
the
So that's
breeze
why.
for a moment or two, and I'll boot it
Sure.
up on the old
Sounds
call-in
good.
app.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
which case.
We'll wait for a few minutes for people to join us, as is our
Okay,
custom. We got a few topics that are pre-podcast recording topics that we want to talk about with people, and then we'll jump into a podcast recording.
excellent.
So yeah, how are you, man? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Yeah, it's just been running around. I took a bit of time off, which felt a bit sort of strange. I'm always sort of trying to achieve something somehow. And I just went to hear a friend of mine play jazz drums in a little set out somewhere in a nice cafe. The sun was shining, so it does happen in London. It was very
Great,
nice.
London. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that is fantastic. Well, hey everybody! If you're joining us live on the various channels, thanks for hopping in with us live. We appreciate it. Feel free to leave us a little comment. Tell us where you're listening from. We're going to talk for a few minutes here about life updates, Elon Musk, and the curious case of why mayonnaise packets are skyrocketing in cost. And then we're going to record a fun podcast episode as well. So I'm just booting things up on our secondary broadcast tool, which is the call-in app. And so give me a minute to do that. Feel free to tell us more about the coolness of London, Michael, and listening to jazz in clubs in London.
Yeah,
Ugh.
no, it wasn't really a club. It was just in a cafe outside actually, which can be a risky business with British weather. But yeah, it's lovely. Um, yeah, a friend of mine who was playing, so it's always good to know the people. I mean, London's got pretty much any kind of cultural offering in the world that you want, really, from the esoteric to the mainstream. I guess it's kind of like New York, except I get the impression there's even more music here than New York, which sounds
And
hard to
London is
imagine.
so
There's a lot going
great.
on.
When we met a few summers ago, what was that, 2019 or 20? We met
Something,
at
yeah.
this Farm Girl Cafe, which Cinnamon had found on Instagram or somewhere that was super trendy. And there was like a huge waiting list line
Yeah, Notting Hill. Yeah,
out the
that's a
door.
very trendy. Even since like the film of the name Notting Hill with Hugh Grant doing
Yeah.
his shtick as the
Yeah.
English gent. Oh, sorry, terribly. And Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
It's been pretty trendy since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the place to be.
Yeah.
But of course, one of my motivations for e-commerce is that the property or real estate prices reflect that. So if you want to live in a nice area in London and you want to buy an
Yeah.
actual house with a few bedrooms,
Yeah.
you're looking at $4 million probably upwards. So it's kind of a little bit
Whew.
thought
Yeah.
provoking. Yes. Yeah.
I'm switching my audio over to Colin.
But
Yeah.
don't be
Okay,
talking.
friends.
Sounds
So
good.
sorry for the tech setup here. We're just doing what we do and trying to make sure we're on all the platforms possible. And I think we're good. Michael, can you hear me and Colin? Can you see Colin? Can you join Colin? Sorry, everybody, for the delay here. Get it sorted here momentarily, and we're going to tell you about mayonnaise packets and the extreme cost of such things. Yeah. Here we go. Hopefully.
Okay, here we are on calling as well. Everywhere in the internet that you can be, you'll find us talking about sourcing.
Yeah. Sorry. Let me just get my phone sorted here. Hopefully that's going to work. There we are. Cool. All right. We're live. We're live on Call-In and on YouTube and Facebook and such. So are you ready to kick this conversation off, man?
I am. Are we talking about you got a couple of little sort of teasers here about the stuff you've been talking about on your email list? Elon Musk and mayonnaise sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, the big saga this week in Twitter versus Elon Musk, his takeover bid, is the question about bots and how many bots are actually part of the Twitter ecosystem. They claim to him it was less than 5%. He has data scientists that are telling him the floor is 20% and maybe more. And it's a big showstopper at the moment for this deal going forward. But here's the important part that I wanted to just mention to everybody who's listening to this. And it really is a frightening idea. And that is that a lot of the ad platforms for us as e-commerce operators where we want to advertise, Twitter would be one of them. If they do brand or impression based advertising, cost structures. In other words, it's not cost per click, it's cost per impression advertising. Then their inflation of their user community and their daily active users can be what they base those numbers on. And what he's pointed out in this discovery process as he's looking to take over Twitter or buy it is that there could be massive, massive fraud. Now, well, I shouldn't say fraud. I should say number of bots that is larger than 5%. Now, TBD on whether that's true or not. But my thinking as a social media marketer and advertiser was, my goodness, can you imagine all of the brands that have spent millions and even billions on Twitter advertising over the last whatever years, thinking they were getting, a certain number of impressions. But if that is not true, I just like as soon as I heard this story, I was like, massive lawsuits will ensue.
I was about to
So
say, I mean, yeah, one good reason to not buy it would be you'd just be buying a lawsuit sort of package, wouldn't you, for the next 10
yeah,
years?
yeah, because he's announced to everyone the basis for the lawsuit, which is if
Yeah,
there's a lot more bots on the system than is claimed, then all those ads were inflated impressions. That is
yeah,
brutal.
nasty. It
Yeah,
is,
that
and the thought-provoking thing on that is if it causes people to examine the data for other ads platforms that are even bigger, such as Google or Facebook. I mean, particularly Facebook would strike me as the obvious place to think, I don't know much about bots and bot accounts. I'm not a big Twitter user, but I imagine there must be equivalents going on all platforms because there's got to be an incentive to do it for somebody,
yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah,
just makes you think. I mean, what the
yeah,
outcome would be, who knows?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
such a saga, and so I like the All In podcast. He was on it this last week live talking all about this thing. So if you want to check out that podcast, that's where I heard the whole dialogue and conversation and the billionaires on that show who are all social media and tech operators who ask him good questions about it. So it's a very fascinating story to follow. So there you go. That's commentary one. Now let's talk about mayonnaise. Okay.
Mayonnaise.
Here's the setup. Last night, Cinnamon and I had dinner with my mentor and good friend Ron. He's the guy who, if you ever attended the e-commerce power summit, he gave us his talk about um, uh, sourcing and retail arbitrage. He's the guy who bought 1,300 Star Wars action figures, or no, it was 3,700 Star Wars action figures, and sold them for $80,000 profit. A few years ago, he learned to do sourcing from learning about what we do and got into it. Anyway, we were at his home, and he's a restaurateur as well. And they were saying to me that their cost of the mayonnaise packets went from a box of them, because they hand them out all the time with like every customer. It's like a freebie thing, right? Uh, a box of them went from $11 to $36. And they had a list of all their other costs of their other food products, just straws and napkins and mayonnaise and ketchup packets and the burgers and all this stuff. The prices for their cost of goods was absolutely shocking in terms of the inflation or the cost changes. And when I was listening to them, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, they're talking about how they're dealing with it and all that kind of stuff, how it's impacting their business. But the thing I was thinking about was how many other businesses in our community are being impacted by or going to be impacted by product costs and input costs that are going to skyrocket and or are skyrocketing right now. And Ron had an interesting comment that, Michael, I think you'd be piqued by this idea. He said that for a lot of the businesses that went through COVID, you either were a winner because of all the stimulus, you got the stimmy checks and all, the various ways in which you got, at least in the US, a lot of opportunities for stimulus money as business operators, or you were massively destroyed. I mean, like many operators were just like, we're out of business. But others were like, oh my gosh, we've got so much stimulus money. But here's the thing, he said that's gone now. And so all these operators that survived are now going to have to look at their cost of goods and really rationalize their pricing and say to themselves, now that the stimmy money's gone, all those checks that we were getting are gone. Now I've got to justify my profit and loss statement based on the true cost of goods and my markup and my price changes. And his commentary was many business operators will be doing that this year and are doing it right now. And what it will mean is a massive swing in terms of costs, and obviously it's to the upside. It's not going to, there will be very little deflation in that regard. So I wondered what your thought would be about that, because it is an interesting idea that the survivors were helped, but now they're not helped, and now they're going to have to, in essence, live off their own pricing power. It speaks to the issue of inflation, what might be happening in the economy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, what surprises me about these conversations is not that they're happening, but that they didn't happen a year ago. I mean, I've been seeing,
Mm-hmm.
all the conversations. I guess that the further back in the supply chain you reach, the quicker the costs hit you, I guess, right? So if you're importing oil, which by the way is not just a transport, fundamental for the globe, much as we may be trying to transition out of it, it still is, and it's the basis for so many materials, including most plastics. So
Mm-hmm.
raw materials go up in oil. I mean, the Chinese factories or
Yeah.
anyone like that, or anyone who happens to be manufacturing in the US will feel it straight away. If you're then buying from those factories as, say, a private label brand owner, you're going to feel it quicker than an arbitrage or somebody who's down a supply chain through distributors or wholesalers that have got a sort of hump, living off the camel's hump of the reserves they bought at a lower price. Then maybe not pass that on immediately, that cost. So I feel like it's just coming through the supply chain now, and really not surprised that foodstuff's going up, because so much food was exported from Russia and Ukraine, and both are pretty much offline and going to be offline as well. So that's always priced into the markets, isn't it? When people have food futures and stuff, we're not just paying for what's
Yeah.
just happened, we're paying for what the perception of the markets is of what's about to
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah.
so it kind of doesn't surprise me. And I guess you're right. The interesting question to me is how on earth do we deal with this? And also, to your point, I guess you've got to evaluate where does your business sit on this continuum, because you're so right with COVID. That was 100% right with the mastermind. Some people triple their business in a year, not because they became geniuses overnight. They're smart people, but they were in the right sectors. And then other people went 80% down, and pretty much, a couple of them are folding up their businesses in
Mm-hmm.
the e-commerce
Mm-hmm.
side now.
Yeah.
And I think that this is much more of an across the board problem, but it will be particularly acute in certain areas like food,
Mm-hmm.
inflation. And then the question is what to do about it, which is, I guess, one of the things we're going to be talking about today with the retail arb side,
Yeah.
smart sourcing.
Yeah.
And as you say, you've got to make everything justify itself now. And a
Yeah.
lot of us have had a lot of fat in the system that we need to cut at
Yeah.
this point.
Too right. Okay, final podcast episode recording comment here. Just a little life update. I just flew back from California yesterday. The Miles clan is making a big move
Yeah.
to Northern California, and we're really excited about that. We're looking for property, and we're going to be closer to Silicon Valley for our software stuff, and closer to family, most importantly, which is kind of why we're making the move. So anyway, life update, and we're really excited about it. It will be quite a transition, but you'll see me in a new broadcast location, and I'm going to do, I think, if I get my way, I'm going to do more vlogging for the Happy Gardening Life and for my gardening brand. I love that, and I'm going to turn it into like more of a proper YouTube channel, not just an Instagram, channel. And so anyway, just wanted to mention that, and so we might be offline for a few weeks and skip our recording sessions a little bit here in the transition, but thought I'd mention that as well.
Can't really blame anyone for wanting to move to California from what I hear. That the weather, the opportunities,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
Silicon Valley is still
yeah,
the place to be, I guess, for so many tech things,
sure,
isn't it? So
yeah.
keep us posted. Exciting.
Will do, man. All right, you ready to record this podcast?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, let's do it. All right, you're going to do the intro, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Today's topic is a behind the scenes tour of a new opportunity Jason and Kyle are launching, the Sourcing School with Danny Stock. So all about retail arbitrage. Jason, tell us what you're up to here. What is this Sourcing School with Danny Stock all about?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, really excited to share news and details about this new membership program we're putting together. Many of you will know, of course, Danny Stock. He's sort of a legend in the sourcing and retail arbitrage world. If you're not familiar with him, he created legendary sourcing app, which is now called OmniRocket sourcing app. We purchased the software from him a couple years ago and rebranded it. And Danny's just a fantastic guy. He's a co-founder of the Legends Group with Ryan Rager. Ryan runs that now on his own, and but they had like 2, 3, 4 years or something like that they ran it together. Um, and he's also the author of a book, Become an Amazon Selling Legend Using Retail Arbitrage. And what else? He coined the phrase and came up with the concept of replens sourcing. So many people have popularized that now and built businesses teaching it and software and other tools in support of replens strategies. But he was the one who kind of conceptualized and shared and trained people on that original work. So Danny's a fantastic guy, and so he talked to us. I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months ago about the idea of doing something that's a little different, and that would be a membership group or a school, you could call it, that he's going to just do a lot of sourcing in real life, and like he's going to go into stores and show his decisions, and he's going to use the OmniRocket Pro tools, including the sourcing app, and show how to do it. Literally, like over the shoulder, like, "Hey, look at this. Here's what I'm sourcing." Because a lot of this arbitrage game is that there's a mystery to it where people don't want to tell you what they're doing, because then if you do it, there's price challenges on and quantity challenges on Amazon. He's just going to blast through all that and say, look at this. Here's an item. Here's the cost I get for it, and walk through the details. So really excited about it. What else can I say? He really was hoping that this would be something that was an entry level opportunity for folk. And so it's going to be more, monthly recurring subscription amount that's very, very affordable. I think we're settled on $20 a month for the cost or investment, you could call it. But hopefully that makes it, that's 3 frappuccinos a month that you'd save and not spend, and you could join the sourcing school, something like that. So yeah, it's going to be very practical, very affordable, and it's going to be an opportunity for him to really teach you what he knows. And we're just really, really excited about it. It's going to be the kind of thing where if you don't know what to do and you're not sure how to get in the game of e-commerce, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to learn from a real, legit, honest guy who's very down to earth and practical. So yeah, we're thrilled about it. So there you have it.
Sounds really good. I mean, I have to say that in a private chat when we were preparing for this podcast, I said, "Oh, right, let me know about it, because I've got a couple of people who I think I should pass on to you who would benefit from it." And I thought, well, I'm going to hear all about it on live anyway. But because I've got people that come to me to do what they think they want to do private label, and then I say to them what's involved, and the wins can be big, and the sustainability and defensibility, and I know
Yeah,
plenty of people who sold those businesses for 6 and 7 figures.
yeah,
It's a very real thing, but you're not going to do it overnight, and for a lot of people it really isn't the right first step. So
uh-huh.
I'm always really glad to know of good quality retail arbitrage training, because I just think it's such a good obvious entry point, but people don't hear about it a lot. I didn't hear about the business model existing
Yeah.
till I'd been selling on Amazon for 3 or 4 years, which sounds kind of crazy to me now, but that was just a fact,
Hmm.
so people
Yeah.
don't know about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So why take us to 30,000 foot for a minute? Why are you actually doing this? And obviously Dan is a great guy. I understand why you're partnering with him.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
what's behind it? What is the problem that you're trying to solve that you feel isn't already being solved elsewhere out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. I think there's 2 or 3 things that are weaving together here that make it really interesting for us. When we talked to Danny originally about buying the software that he had built, the reason I was passionate about it remains the reason I'm passionate about it today, which is in my own e-commerce journey, it literally was a full 10 years that I call my decade of dreaming, where I heard about online selling. I heard about a guy who had a website. It was a traffic school website he had set up, and he was making $1,000 a day. And that was in 1998. And I just was mesmerized and captivated. And I literally, and I know people, it's hard to believe now, but I literally tried to figure out, honestly, with integrity, I was trying to figure out for 10 years how to sell online, and I couldn't come up with a product. And I kept this endless loop of what about this product? Waste 6 months on it, and it was a bad idea. And then I never even got to launch. I never even got to the market because I just didn't know. And that was misery. And I look back at that full decade of, of dreaming, and I was like such a bummer. So when I heard Danny talk about retail arbitrage, and when I heard when he had said, "Hey, the software thing was sort of getting outside of his scope and his area of interest," it just to me resonated so deeply with the idea of being able to help people do an entry level e-commerce operation or business model that is legitimate, that is achievable, that is not a big upfront investment, and the software, the sourcing app, does the bulk of the analysis for you. And so that to me was the reason I'm passionate about it. It's the reason I would continue to be passionate about helping people get into e-commerce with retail arbitrage. But I'll mention two other bits here that I think might pique your interest as well. One is, we just recorded this last week with Chris Green, the episode on the call-in app, and the episode we titled it was "How Would You Spend $100 to Start an E-commerce Business?" And I don't remember if it was you or Kyle, but maybe somebody's first comment was, "Well, I do retail arbitrage." And then we went on to talk about other sophisticated, different things, but we just glossed right over the, "Well, I do retail arbitrage." Well, yes, of course you would, and so would I, and everybody would. If you want to start an e-commerce business and you don't know anything about it, and you hear about retail arbitrage, it is a pathway. And so that's a second point is it is a foundational piece. The third point I'll just mention is I was in a conversation with one of our partners and people we do e-commerce work for. We do run their Shopify sites, and and this person is a seven-figure, very successful seller. And the comment that he made was because of all the market volatility in pricing and in these changes in cost of goods, business is going out. He said in the next season of the economy, it's going to be a better retail arbitrage opportunity than has ever existed because price changes are going to what we've already talked about in this conversation. Price changes are radically going under a radical redo. What's the appropriate price? Well, we don't know, and that means the opportunity for retail arbitrage is going to be just ripe, low hanging fruit. And I was really interested by his comment there, and I hadn't put those pieces together, but it just made me realize, oh, if the economy really, really tanks and stores are going out of business and different things are happening like that, retail arbitrage is going to be a great game to play and a business model that you really can do well finding items locally and selling them online. So there you have it. Those are three reasons that I think I'm really excited about this opportunity and really looking forward to launching the sourcing school. Yeah.
Like it. I think there's also bigger picture lessons to be learned from all these things. People get very locked into specific business models. And I think operationally, i.e., day to day, how to actually make it work. And as you say, not waste a decade in dreaming and getting caught up in ineffective ways of doing things. It's critical to be specific, of course. But I think what can happen there is that people miss the bigger picture. I mean, arbitrage of some kind, using, on, shall we say, electronic means, has been a very, very big thing for some top Wall Street people, sometimes to the detriment of the economy. I think there were some people back in the 1997, was it? I can't remember who they were called, Miles and Scholes or something, that they were basically arbitraging tiny differences between things with a massive amount of leverage. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, as a generic way of looking at the world and possibly as a specific business model, it is something worth revisiting if you're, have the prejudice that I sometimes have had, which is if you're private labeling or creating a brand, it's a better business model, quotes unquote. And it really depends on the environment, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Because if your better business model suddenly it has untenable economics, you may have to pivot quite quickly, and you may have to think in a broader way about how to make a living as an e-commerce
Yeah.
operator for the next couple of years, I think.
What you just described, I'm pulling in this other quote I heard recently, which is I think it was this guy named Bernstein who was the head of the American Psychological Association, and he said that practitioners, and this was in the context of clinical counseling and stuff like that. He said practitioners get in this thing called methodological fixation, methodological fixation, method fixation. Right when I heard that phrase, I was like, "Oh, that happens all the time. That happens in my nonprofit management and leadership work that I do with our charity. It happens in business operators as you get your business model method fixation." And what he said is, you get in your mind that this is the right way to do something, and then you work to optimize, improve, and enhance. And we all do this. We lean into what we think is working and find that works and get feedback that's positive, and we can get this method fixation. And I mean, to the extent retail arbitrage is not your current method, do you need to go try it out? I don't know. You'll have to decide. But I can tell you one thing, that the people who do lean into retail arbitrage and really learn it correctly and invest time in it, they can make it work. My friend Ron, I was talking about the mayonnaise packets conversation. He's the guy who, he was doing retail arbitrage, doing garage sailing. And then his story is he was looking on Craigslist for garage sales. And then he saw a listing for a business that was going out of business, or this guy had 2 storage units full of action figures. And he wrote, the check for buying all of it. And it was an $80,000 profit that he got from that deal, because he was looking for garage sales so he could do retail arbitrage. And he, leaned into this deal, and he had the money to make it happen and all that, to buy the inventory. But I just say that to say that, this method fixation thing is something for us to think about and really be careful about, because we can lose the forest for the trees too frequently. So
Yeah, I think this methodological fixation is very, very prevalent in a lot of e-commerce. I guess because we've talked about this before, right? You sort of buy into some way of doing things. The other one is platform fixation. Again,
mhm.
if Amazon works best, and it's certainly a very good starting point, and I know that's what you guys would probably focus on, great. But just because Amazon's been a great place to work, as eBay was years ago, doesn't mean something more suitable isn't going to come along, or that it won't stop working as well. So, um, tell us a bit more about the specific thing there, your specific problems you're trying to solve, I guess, with OmniRocket sourcing, and you've got the sourcing app, and then you've got the training. So what is
Yep.
it you're particularly trying to do for people that, do better than the existing training out there? Because it's not like there's a shortage of YouTube
Yeah.
videos on retail arbitrage. What is
Yeah.
it you're trying to do that's not well served in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, two different questions. I guess for one thing, for the sourcing school is the opportunity to learn from Danny on with the specific examples. The training that happens out on YouTube and different places um, is to some degree, what's the right word? Generalized, because people don't want to share their real examples of retail arbitrage product opportunities, and or it's dated information, and that kind of thing. So the opportunity to join someone who's doing these things, in real time, like here's today's video, that kind of thing, is an opportunity to, I guess, in the business phrase, to open the kimono was the phrase. I'm not sure I like that phrase, but it's the opportunity to say, well, what's actually really happening? What is the specific thing you're looking at right now today? How many did you buy? What did you pay? What is it selling for on Amazon? How much money are you going to make? How long will it take you? All the actual detailed questions. Now, the basics of retail arbitrage are so simple to some degree. It's like golf. Yeah, hit the ball with a stick. To some degree, it's a simple concept, but the execution of it is where you get all of the success. And so that's the reason why we're excited and what we're trying to accomplish. Now, on the software side, the sourcing app itself, if you are users of the OmniRocket sourcing app, we'd love your highest and best review on the app stores, Google Play Store and Apple App Store, by the way. But if you use it, many people do. Over 10,000 people in the community now using the sourcing app. We're thrilled by that. Um, it solves a lot of problems. It answers the question: is this an opportunity to buy an item and sell it on Amazon? And it gives you the tools, analysis, and that kind of detail. Many people, if you go read the reviews on Apple, in particular, we'll say this is the best sourcing app in existence. This is the best tool. This is the app that we all use and depend on. And we made that app free this last year. It's now free to use, and the whole suite of tools. There's 4 tools in the OmniRocket Pro suite. This is only $29 a month. So I'm trying to make it affordable for the entry level e-commerce operator. Basically, is what we're trying to solve for, and make these tools non-expensive. Many other tools that are out there, you end up getting into a lot of costly, monthly investment, and that just wasn't the way we wanted to approach it. So, will that thesis prove to be correct in the marketplace? I guess we'll find out over time. We're working hard to build a company. A couple reviews I saw this last year that are negative reviews was, or your customer service isn't good, but we've resolved that. And Christy and Abby are our customer service team now, and they're making sure everybody's happy, everybody gets things sorted, supported. OmniRocket.com is the way to get support. So anyway, yeah, those are the things we're trying to solve for.
Right. And specifically then, is it the sort of thing that you would take with you on a trip to Walmart or something and whip out of your pocket? And what sort of specific things would it, because as you said, the devil is in the detail, the execution.
Mhm.
What kind
Yeah.
of specific things would it do for people that it does better? Because obviously you've got a big fan base there. They must have some concrete reasons why.
Yeah, too right. So yes, it's an app that you can pull up, Google Play or iPhone app, so Android or iPhone, and you use it in real time in the stores, evaluating specific product opportunities. And there's a whole collection of data points that it gives you as you look at a specific product, and it lets you know, in essence, the details related to the Amazon side. Now, the sourcing app that when we did survey work and we said, what app do you use for sourcing? The app that was used more than the legendary sourcing app was the actual Amazon seller app. You can just use the Amazon seller app, but and it's free. So we were like, okay, most people use the free one, and so we were like, how do you compete with free? Well, you make yourself, you make your app free first of all, and then you have a lot of benefits and additional, actionable, intelligent components in your tool that Amazon doesn't have, and that's basically what it is. It's a full suite. So you can go to OmniRocket.com and see the full list of software components that are in the tool. But that's in essence the gist of it, and it gives you an opportunity to literally take your phone in and start looking for products that have a big variance or a retail arbitrage opportunity between what you're seeing in the store price and what you would see in the Amazon price or eBay, that kind of thing. And so there you have it. So yeah, so that's kind of the way it works.
Nice. Well, where do you want to take this? I guess we've talked about something that's pretty defined, really. So it's retail arbitrage, it's a sourcing school and an app. So I
Yep.
guess for those who are ready to get out sourcing, they need to get on the store and download the app. I was just literally doing that while you were talking. I'm like, I want to see what this thing is and get my hands on the detail.
Yeah.
As you said, that's always where it's the difference. As I said, I love your reductionist version of golf. Hit the ball. Okay, that's it. You're
With a
done.
stick.
That'll be $100, please. Yeah, obviously, Tiger Woods had 7, golf coaches, right? There's got to be more to it than that. So
Apparently, it's harder than that. I don't know. I don't.
yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, the way I play golf, it doesn't really advertise that it looks easy because it's horrendously bad. So yeah,
I
you're
hate
right.
it.
The devil
Yeah.
is in the detail, and I think you can totally see why getting the flavor of that kind of
Yeah.
texture and nuance of it
Yeah.
would be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So this feels to me like we're done on that.
Couple
Are there any other things you want to talk about with retail arbitrage, or Danny stop?
couple yeah, couple details. The waiting list is being populated with people's names right now. So I'll have a link. There's a link on our email that I just sent this morning that many people have seen probably. There's also a link in the show notes here. I'll add a link under this video in the lives where we're broadcasting, and happy to get you on the list. The registration for Sourcing School will open on June 1st, 2022. So if you're listening this in the future, then go check it out. TheSourcingSchool.com will be populated on June 1st as a top level domain. Until then, we have a wait list that you can sign up for. If you are listening to this and you're like, I want to be on the wait list, but I don't see the link anywhere, just email support@omnirocket.com. We'll get you on the wait list. And then if it's after June 1st, just go to thesourcingschool.com, and you'll see details about how to sign up for the sourcing school and all that. And we'll have some goodies and bonuses and give away some additional pieces of value. And I think Danny's book will probably be one of those, and a few other things. So yeah, there you have it. I think that's the basics. And I don't think I'm forgetting anything else. So yeah.
Nice. Well, all I would say to anyone listening who thinks that they should be doing something very complicated and expensive is, why not try something simpler and cheaper first? Actually selling anything on Amazon is not a common outcome for people talking about doing it or even taking a course, in my experience. Because as you said, and I've seen that so many times, and I did that myself for a long time, that lost decade of yours, when you go in circles trying to be perfectionist because it's such a big deal if you get it wrong. I think what you need to do is remove the big deal if you get it wrong piece, right? So if you buy some stuff and you sell it and it doesn't, or you put it in Amazon and it doesn't sell, but you've only got $50 in it, that's no big deal. You just do it again and get it right the next time, right? So I think the low barrier to entry is deceptively important for actually starting a business.
Too right. Yeah, I totally agree, man. Well, wonderful conversation. I'm glad we were able to talk about a good number of topics today, including the sourcing school, the mayonnaise topic, Elon Musk, and all. But fun times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man. Good conversation.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us today. If you're listening to this on the podcast player of choice, then we'd love to have you give us a highest and best review. That's how we know the show is working well for you. Give us that kind of feedback, and we really appreciate it. We want to bring you the hot topics and the best e-commerce conversations we can bring and wrap our minds around for your success. And that's the whole gist of the whole reason we're doing the podcast. So as always, Michael, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason. Likewise.